The presenting sponsor of Moon Tower Soccer is FVF Law.
To find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm, you can visit fvf.law.
Hello friends, thanks for listening to Moon Tower Soccer. This week we'll cover another Austin FC signing, along with a few other rumors of incoming and outgoing squad members. We'll also talk about some Christmas gifts that we would like to give to members of the Austin FC family. My name is Landon Cottom, and I'm joined, as always, by Mr. Jeremiah Bentley.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeremiah Bentley, and Landon, I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about where you are currently recording this episode from.
I am in a closet at my in-laws' house in New Home, Texas, which is just outside of Lubbock, Texas. And so it's extremely windy outside, like it always is in this part of the world. And so I wanted to get to an interior closet in the house, partially for sound quality, but also in case the walls get blown down by the wind, I'll be safe in here.
I love this. Yes, it's a disaster preparedness podcast is what we've decided to add into things for 2021. And so I think speaking of holidays in that part of the country, you became a bit of a Twitter superstar over the last few days.
Yeah,
I think you should share that.
The most popular thing I'll ever do on the internet was post a photo of an inflatable dragon in my front yard. And so if anybody who did or didn't see it, there's a podcast that I'm obsessed with that I've mentioned on this show before called My Brother and Me. And they've created this whole fake holiday called Candle Nights. And they say it's a pan-religious, pansexual, personal pan holiday. It starts when you want it to, it ends whenever you need it to. And part of the lore of this is Terry, the non-denominational gift delivery dragon. So my wife bought me one of these 9-foot tall inflatable dragons from Amazon, and I made a sign about Terry and kind of some fun facts that they made up about Terry on the podcast. And I posted that to Twitter, and one of the guys on this podcast, which is a pretty popular, like a very popular podcast, one of the guys from the podcast saw it and retweeted it. And I ended up getting thousands and thousands of likes and hundreds of retweets. And it was a lot of fun to watch that happen, but also a little bit depressing to think about how much time Jeremiah and I spend on this show, and that the most popular thing that I'll ever do is post a picture of an inflatable dragon.
So did Ashley get that dragon for you specifically knowing that that this is what it was going to be for?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I had the idea and was trying to convince her of it. And I think it was for my birthday. She bought me the dragon so that I could follow through with my plan of creating Terry.
And then Terry has like a list of like an FAQ there that you posted on the sign. Is there one in particular that is like your favorite? So your favorite question and answer that best defines Terry?
Yeah, I think my favorite one, let me pull it up so I get it correct here. Okay, yeah, here it is. So it's like an FAQ about Terry, the non-denominational gift delivery dragon. And one of the questions is, what does Terry bring the bad kids? He brings presents to all kids. Terry doesn't judge. He's done some shit too, but he served his time and he's keeping his nose clean.
I thought that was beautiful. That was my favorite one too. If you didn't go with that one, I was going to go with that one. I loved it. I think that really captures the spirit of Terry.
And again, all credit to this goes to the podcast, My Brother and Me. It is 100% their joke that I just brought to life in my front yard. So don't think that I'm this clever or funny, because I'm not.
Well, I think before we get into the big news of the week, or the big news of the day, because we're recording this in the middle of the day, which it feels weird to look outside and see sunlight. And,
yeah, this is the first coffee show we've done, I think, since back when we were doing the Austin Anthem podcast.
And I'm drinking Sculptor Formosa from Hop Squad. So it's a coffee.
Right.
It's a coffee porter. So I got a little bit of coffee and a little bit of our usual beer. But we also got, and I got this, I know you haven't been in town, but we got each got beautiful black and verde guayaberas from a shirt company called Texas Standard, and specifically from a guy named Joshua Brito, who's the director of marketing. And he said he's a big-time Austin FC supporter, a listener since the Anthem podcast days. So this is a guy that's been loyal and been around for as long as we've done this and gone through all three names. So he sent each of us a shirt from Texas Standard, a Texas-based clothing company, and he hopes that we rock it for the season to come. Your friend from Section 135, Joshua Brito. So thank you very much, Joshua,
thanks,
for that.
Joshua.
And when we talk about next week's show, I think that this thing, my version of it, might make a video debut on the podcast in a week. When we get to the end, we can talk about that. But let's cover the news.
Let's do it. So I think the biggest news this week, and the reason why we're recording in the morning, is because on Monday afternoon, we got some Verde smoke from Anthony Precourt. And so we usually record on Monday nights, decided to push it back because we figured this was worth pushing it back for. So we're recording this on Tuesday, but just a couple of hours ago, we got news that Austin FC signed from free agency 30-year-old Argentine forward Maxi Urruti. So he's most recently with Houston Dynamo, but he came to MLS in 2013. He's played for 5 teams over, I think, 9 seasons, and has a goal average of 7.35 goals per season since 2014, his first full season. And yeah, anything else we should know about Urruti before going into kind of his playing style?
I think, well, so just statistically, I mean, his best years, it seemed like, were his time in Dallas, which I think was 2016 through, or his best time in playing in Frisco for FC Dallas. Let's be geographically correct. Started 90 games and scored 30 goals and 20 assists over 3 seasons with them. And he's the first person to have played for all 3 Texas-based MLS teams, which is kind of wild. And I mean, a bit of a strange trivia since Austin's only existed for a season and a slight bit of an off season, but he becomes the first person to make the full Texas tour. And I've also been told that he is a dangly Jesus cross earring wearer, which we seem to be accumulating a lot of on the club. So those are my bits of trivia about him.
I'm all for the dangly earrings. So yeah, he's, as far as playing style goes, he's a pretty dynamic forward. He's played mostly center forward, but he's not a huge guy, but moves really well, really good in transition. So that's something that Austin FC saw first person a few times, including in the preseason games when we played them. Really good in transition, really presses really well, and is really good at just being annoying to opposition defenders as they're trying to play out of the back, which again, Austin FC also saw quite a bit of that from him. One thing that Maxi Urruti is known for, and has been known for at all of the clubs he's played for, is that he shoots a lot. And so looking back at, this is from FBref, he was in the 75th percentile in total shots in the 2021 season. And so he's going to shoot a lot. And looking back at some film earlier this morning, essentially anytime you give him a little bit of space within 35 yards of the goal, he's going to take a chance. He's going to shoot it. And the weird thing is, a lot with Houston anyway, and like Houston is a slightly different team than to teams that he's played on in the past, but it doesn't even always come across as selfish to me. Fans of the teams he's played for may feel differently, but it almost just like, this is what you signed up for, and this is what I'm going to do. Don't expect me to do anything different, because he does, like, he will drop in and combine pretty well with the midfield. He'll float wide and put in crosses. And so I don't know that I would necessarily call him a selfish player, but he's, like I said, this is what you're signing up for. If I get a half a chance within 35 yards of goal, I'm going to take it. He doesn't always make them. And so there's been lots of jokes, including from Phil West, talking about how we might lose some instruments this year due to Maxi Urruti shots flying over the post. But do we think him shooting a lot could potentially be a positive for Austin FC?
I don't see how it's a downside. I mean, one of the things that we're not ruthless enough in front of goal, right? I mean, one of the things that I think that people have been frustrated by is the fact that a lot of times it seems like nobody's willing to take a shot, or nobody other than Tomas Pochettino is willing to take a shot, and we'll have other questions about whether that's going to be an option this year for him or not. But I don't think that it's a problem to have somebody who's just, willing to fire away. And good things can happen. He could score. It could bounce off people. He could open up lanes because he's not afraid to take a shot and create chances for others. So yeah, I mean, I think you kind of need somebody like this in the squad.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it that being the case. I would prefer he made more of them because his conversion percentage is actually quite low. It's not great, but I think that is due to how many shots he takes. But if he's the best player and you're relying on him to do everything, I think him taking that many shots can be a negative. But I think in an ideal scenario, he's splitting time with Jite in that center forward spot. If you have a guy like him, if you're down in a game, who can come on and he's going to get 5 or 6 shots away just because that's what he does. That's what he exists for. We didn't really have guys that could do that last season. And so having that as an option in the best of scenarios, I think could be a really good thing. As far as my overall feelings on this, I think it really is going to come down to how much we're paying him. There was because he was on 1.27 million for Houston in 2021. He was a free agent. So Austin FC will be negotiating a new contract with him. There was no mention of designated player in any of the releases from Austin FC. So he'll definitely not be a designated player, which means he'll likely be in that TAM range. If we have him on 600,000-700,000, I like this signing. I think he's a proven enough forward, a productive enough forward in this league to definitely be worth having him on the team for the right price. How do you feel about that? Are you underwhelmed, overwhelmed? How do you feel overall about Urruti?
I feel like just like with the other signing we had, I mean, a lot of this is dependent upon what else we do. I don't know if we cover contract terms, but it's a 2-year deal with a 1-year option. So he's definitely in for 2022 and 2023, and it's on the club for 24. And then the other thing in the release is that they specifically mentioned that he's a permanent resident of the United States as a green card holder, and so he would not take an international slot, which is good because we don't think we have one available. But I think it's a good signing. My question would be, what does this mean for Danny Houston? Because that guy's making a lot of money now to be a 3rd or 4th choice striker. And do we see the club buying him out? Because I can't imagine we need any player that does anything other than take mop-up time beyond having Urruti and Jite on the roster.
Yeah, maybe it's a thing of the club overcompensating this season because of the trauma they experienced last year by having 0 strikers all season. Maybe they're okay coming into this one with 3 strikers, not really knowing what Houston's going to give you. But that's where you could see buying him out maybe is the more appealing option at this point, and getting someone cheaper on the books, because even though like buying his contract out, the money we used to buy him out doesn't cost us anything on our salary budget, but it does free up that salary budget that we would be paying his salary. And so we could use that on other things. So, yeah, I would be interested to see if that does become more of an option now that we do have two strikers who are likely ahead of him on that depth chart.
And another thing I like about him is he's another MLS guy, and he has a long history at it. And again, it's the same profile as Finley. And I think getting Segura back will help. And it's kind of it seems like a New England, Nashville kind of way to build, which have been successful for both those clubs. We need a little more of that. Last year we had a lot of guys who were unfamiliar with the league and unfamiliar with each other. And so I just think the more kind of glue guys like this you can have, the better off that we'll be.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else on Urruti before we move on to the Pochettino rumors?
Yeah, let's talk about Pochettino, because we have more rumors, and they continue to come out of South America from some credible sources. So why don't you cover those? I've been killing Duolingo over the last few weeks, and so like I've got my Spanish good enough to get to read headlines, but I don't think I can get pick up any of the context from the story.
Yeah, so a few different publications have reported on this now, but it mostly seems to tie back to a report from Cesar Luis Merlo, who I believe was the guy who broke the story of Pochettino coming to Austin.
I'm pretty sure he did.
But he's reporting that River Plate have made an offer for Tomas Pochettino. The most recent reports are saying it would be for a loan. How do we feel about this? Will we be okay with seeing Pochettino leave, or would we rather see him stick it out another season and try to turn things around?
I am fine with seeing him leave because of the roster congestion he creates in many different ways. Like he's not, he's kind of you need part-time players, but he's kind of a part-time player. He's occupying a DP spot. He's reduces some of our flexibility. And I don't know that he got better during the year. Like, did you see anything that makes you think that, he's going to turn it around? He's not even one of the guys that we heard about, having a mysterious injury or tonsillitis or any other thing too that can attribute it to. So he really seems like just a guy at this point, and maybe just a guy that's not that happy about being in Austin, if the analysis of body language and things like that can be trusted.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few people say that the reason Pochettino wasn't playing well is because Wolf is playing him out of position. He's played quite a bit of central midfield this year, and maybe he's not playing the exact role that he wants to, but who was on that team last year? Cecilio played center forward all year, and he was still fighting. I think his attitude remained pretty good throughout the season. So I understand if he's upset he's not playing his ideal position, but tough it out, man. And like I said, if we had seen him play that position and he was just amazing, was way better than he was playing on the wing, that would be one thing. But I didn't see that. I think he had a few really good games, one of which came at the 10, playing the 10 in a 4-2-3-1 before Driussi came in. So I don't know. I don't know if I 100% buy the being played out of position theory here. I would like to see him turn it around, but if there's a good offer right now to get him off the books and it doesn't seem like it's a salvageable situation within that locker room, then I'd say go for it. Take the money. One thing that complicates that is that the reports are that it would be for a loan. So if we were to loan out Tomas Pochettino to River Plate, he would clear that DP spot. So we would be able to refill that DP spot with the stipulations that we've covered several times on the show, but which would help us for 2022. But if the loan runs out in 2023 and River don't want to sign him permanently, we are then in the situation where we're forced to, we have to get rid of one of these guys. Luckily with Pochettino, he's cheap enough that we could probably buy him down and bring him back onto the roster if we needed to. And so it's less risky, but I could see how that wouldn't necessarily be an ideal scenario for Austin because of just the uncertainty it brings to that 2023 roster build.
So another thing that on the complicating side of things, I hear, at least on Twitter, a lot of talk about sort of River Plate and whether they have any money or pay guys or don't or whatever. Do you have more context for that? What's the story there?
I don't know a lot about it. I have seen some folks in Los Verdes Slack saying that Argentine clubs and River specifically will use this tactic to sign other players. So in order to kind of hurry a deal along, they'll leak information about, this deal's done. We're signing this guy, but really it's a decoy to get another deal across the line. So there's always a chance that that's the case here, is that they're not actually interested, but there's been enough smoke and enough credible outlets reporting on it that I think this is a for real thing. At least the discussions are at least happening. I don't know if it's a done deal or not, but I think there are at least talks going on.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think a lot of, in fact, there's a lot of people who are more than happy to say goodbye to Tomas. And a lot of it's because of the international slot and the DP slot, right? So this is something, if it's going to happen, if we're going to add a center back from outside the league, that's going to be great. This seems to be one of the most likely avenues in order to be able to clear that roster space up, right? I mean, I don't know where else it's coming from.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even mention the international spot. That's a good point, that it would free that up. But also another reason why the loan would complicate it, because if he were to come back in 23, then we'd either have a DP spot to fill or an international spot to create, or both of those things. And that's, again, not ideal for planning out that 2023 roster budget.
Let's talk about another player that's come up at least a couple times, Johan Valencia, which there was a rumor that he was possibly Austin bound. And I think maybe somebody tagged Los Verdes in a tweet the other day or something about him too, but that does not look to be the case now.
Yeah, it seems like the most recent reports are saying that it's either down to Portland or Dallas. That one came before the Pochettino rumors came. And so once you start hearing rumors about Pochettino, maybe this makes a little more sense about, okay, how are we going to spend this much money on a center, on a midfielder and a center back? Well, if we get rid of Pochettino, then that kind of opens up some of that money, right? So in either case, it doesn't look like this one's going to happen. But if Pochettino goes out, I wouldn't be surprised to see us bring in another midfielder of this profile. So that's something else to keep an eye on.
And then another rumor that keeps coming up is I feel like I saw another Vincent Janssen rumor from Rayados today. But I mean, is that
it can't
I don't
happen.
get the money.
It's impossible.
I don't get the money.
The money's impossible. We would have to sell Cecilio or Driussi in order to fit Janssen onto the roster. So until one of those guys are gone, I don't think either of them are even a possibility to be gone. It can't happen. Even if we sold Pochettino, due to the way our roster's set up, we could not fit Janssen in that spot. So that is not happening this season, no matter what the rumors say.
All right. Well, I think we'll leave it at that, but do not count on that. And it's not exactly our position of biggest need either at this point. Not that it's not like a great guy to add, but clearly the way we built the roster, we're not doing it with the expectation that we're going to bring in another forward of that profile.
All right. One last super MLS-y thing that happened. You want to explain this one, Jeremiah?
Yeah, I'll read the transaction and then we can talk about why or if we should care about it. And I'm going to have to just read it because I don't think there's another way to explain it. So this is right before the second round of, stage 2 of the MLS reentry draft. Austin FC trade to Columbus. It's backwards too. Okay, Columbus got the 4th position in the 2021 MLS reentry draft stage 2. Austin picked up the 3rd round pick in the 2023 MLS Super Draft and the 11th position in the 2021 MLS reentry draft stage 2. So the things that Austin picked up were a pick they did not use in the 2021 MLS reentry draft and a 3rd round Super Draft pick. Why do you make these moves? I mean, we've seen how much the Super Draft pays off.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are looking at this like, this is the dumbest thing. Like, why even bother? And I think it comes down to like, if there's any value to be gained out of something you hold, take advantage of it. It will probably amount to nothing. I don't think this would be the case, but maybe, I don't know if there's any ill feelings between front offices within Columbus and Austin. I would imagine not a lot, but if there are, this could be a situation where Austin sees a situation where Columbus wants something that Austin has, and it's like, all right, pay us for it. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. But it's fun to think about. This makes it seem more connected to Austin because of who Columbus chose with that reentry spot, which was Brady Scott, a goalkeeper that Austin FC did not pick up his contract. They did not necessarily trade for Brady Scott, right? They traded for that spot, and Columbus just happened to take an ex-Austin FC player with it.
Right. But I mean, I'm guessing they saw something in Brady Scott that made them want to pick that up, and maybe they felt like he would go between 4 and 11 in the reentry draft. I don't know, but that seemed to be the value they got out of it. So we effectively traded Brady Scott for a 2023 3rd round MLS Super Draft pick and possibly $50,000 in GAM from Columbus.
Which third round of the Super Draft is around where a lot of teams just don't even pick anybody.
Yeah, where teams just sit it out. So that leaves us a keeper with Stuver, Tarbell, and Pulisic, and that seems like the thing that we're going to go into the season with. So I don't see how Andrew Tarbell goes away at this point. So I think he's just going to be a fairly expensive backup. I think they're probably comfortable with Pulisic being the 3rd keeper, especially since they did pick up his club option. So I think we're set there at that position.
Yeah, seems so. Anything else we want to cover before we take a break?
Yeah, just in general. So, we did this offseason show where we talked through sort of all the different ways that teams can pick up players, and there's this weird convoluted calendar, and we've kind of made it through that. So right before this reentry draft, phase 2, there was phase 1, which Josh Bauer went from Atlanta to Nashville, and that was the only player selected in stage 1. In stage 2, there were only 6 players, 3 of which were designated players. All of whom are designated players are not performing up to their status, so I guess they may well not be designated players. but it's just sort of a conclusion of a weird part of the off season. So we're through all these expansion draft, re-entry draft, waiver draft, all those things. And so domestic and international free agents are now the remaining ways to acquire players. So we won't be picking anybody up through these other means between now and the beginning of the season.
All right. Well, we are going to take a quick break. On the other side of this break, we're going to give some gifts to Austin FC players, or maybe even some Austin FC staff, things that we think that they might need in 2022. So we'll take a quick break and be right back with those gifts. Is around. Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you by our friends at FVF Law, the official injury lawyers of Austin FC.
FVF is a different kind of personal injury law firm dedicated to community, transparency, and client education.
You can go to fvf.law to find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm and why understanding your legal options can dramatically change the outcome of a case. Once again, that's fvf.law. All right, we are back, which means it is time for our Austin FC Christmas gift exchange. So, another podcast I've mentioned on this show is the Total Soccer Show. So we have essentially built our show to model what they do for national and international soccer. So I thought it only made sense for us to just completely steal one of their bits, which is Christmas gifts for players. They usually give them to like Premier League players or national team players or whatever. We're going to do it just for Austin FC players and staff. Did you end up doing any staff, Jeremiah?
Oh yeah, I did.
Players. Okay, perfect.
No, I don't. I think I may only have one player among my four gifts.
Excellent.
I went community as a whole.
Perfect. All right. Well, we're gonna do our little gift exchange here. Jeremiah, I think you said you have 4. I only have 3. Do you want to start us off so we can end on an even number here?
Yes, I'll be happy to do that. So, do you remember? You probably had this growing up, and like, because you grew up in a high school football town, you used to get those like those schedule magnets that had like the team's high school schedule. You could put on the refrigerator, and then you kind of planned your life around it. So for Matthew McConaughey, I want to get him a 2022 home schedule magnet so that he will know when all the home games are and not necessarily the first game. Because I think maybe that would help him, make it out there and make it to more matches. So gift number 1, I couldn't find an Austin FC magnet online to get a price point for that. Maybe they're not out yet, but when the time comes, I'm committed to getting that one for the Men Who Serve Culture. Usually promotional, right? They'll have like a sponsor on there or something. Get them one for free, which is even easier for you. But I think that's a great gift. And a lot of people have been giving him stick for not attending more matches, which if he's not going to attend all the matches, fair enough. I'm not upset at him for that. But if they're going to continue to sell him as the minister of culture and the leader of the Austin fan base, he should come to more games. So they need to change one of those things. This reminds me, I was going to say before we got into this, I expect like your gifts are going to be like smart and thoughtful and probably well organized and meaningful, and mine are going to be like cheap shots at people that are easy. Mine are mostly cheap shots. Okay, good. Which brings us to my first gift, which goes to Johan Romagna. You guys know I love Johan, personality-wise, and a lot of his playing style I like. But I'm going to get him a neck brace to keep him from ball watching in the 2022 season. So often you would see Johan tracking a man, the ball would go to the other side of the field, and that person would just cease to exist in Johan's mind. So I'm hoping if we can keep his head pointed straight forward, he'll be forced to use his peripheral vision to be able to track the ball and the man, and maybe improve that part of his game a little. I love it. I mean, I think his neck is so huge. I mean, he may not be able to turn it as a normal human would. Do you think that's part of his problem, maybe? Or just what we need, or he would be able to like smash out of the brace without any problem. He'd overwhelm it. Nothing can hold him down. That's probably true. All right, who are you giving your next gift to, Jeremiah? All right, number 2. And this is an idea I had in my head, and then I was listening to Total Soccer Show at the gym yesterday, and I kind of stole this idea. So I'm going to change it up a little bit. For Alex Ring, I want to get him a 3D printer so he can print a second Alex Ring. So we can get over whether he's our best 6 or our best 8 because he's probably both. And I feel like that is the way to fill our hole in the midfield, is to have a second Alex Ring. Now, I got a 3D printer Santa Claus brought a 3D printer for my son for Christmas, and I haven't been able to figure out how to put it together. So this should not be one that I like buy and assemble, but somebody out there can make like one for Alex Ring that makes him a second Alex Ring.
All right, my next gift is going to Cecilio Dominguez, and I am getting him a book titled Fear of Missing Out, Practical Decision Making in a World of Overwhelming Choice. And so
Nice.
I'm hoping this will improve Cecilio's decision-making ability, or at the very least, allow him to make decisions quicker. There's so many times this season where Cecilio would receive the ball in an area that, like in transition a lot of times, where the best thing for him to do would either be to make a move or recycle the ball or keep moving it. And so often he would just put his foot on it and just wait for something else to open up or to happen. I don't think that should be Cecilio's job on this team. We have Driussi for that. We have other guys who that's going to be their focus. Cecilio, when he receives the ball, he needs to make an instant decision. Either I'm going to take this guy on or I'm going to get rid of it. He should never just be standing there with the ball, because that's not what he does well. So hopefully this book will help him with that.
So on that point, do you feel like him being back on the wing, do you feel like he's really going to be a full-time winger this year? And do you think that will help him at all? Book or no book?
Yes, I do think that he'll be a full-time winger this year, just because for depth reasons, we won't need to play him or shouldn't need to play him anywhere else. And I do think it will help him. He did still, this was still an issue for him when he was playing on the wing sometimes. So I don't think playing on the wing will necessarily fix this particular problem that I'm referencing, but I do think he'll be a better player overall this season playing wide.
And I don't know if this book is one of the ones that have like the preview, like the Amazon, read a few pages. But if there is there a like flop or not flop chapter? Because I feel like that would also be an important one for Cecilio too.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that one. That one might have to come from a different book.
That's too bad. Well, this is my second player that I was going to get something for. So I'll go on to my gift was also for Cecilio. And I wanted to give him the gift of inner peace, and I thought there's no better place to do that than a yoga studio. And I found a coupon for Core Power Yoga. There's a $20 for the first month discount. So I feel like giving Cecilio sort of the chance to get sort of find his inner self and find his inner being, and maybe not think so much and not overthink things, is something that would help him both on the field, when he decides to flop or not, and maybe also help him like stick with a consistent hairstyle, because I feel like he's kind of all over the place. He never went for the hair that we wanted to have. So I think the gift of yoga is my gift to Cecilio.
Jeremiah, you and I are going to turn this season around.
We are. I like it. and we're bargain hunting. Although my last one's not going to be at a discount. But go ahead. What's your next gift?
Well, maybe Diego can help you pay for it with his gift, because I'm getting Diego Fagundes a MasterCard. You might ask why, and I say it's because the guy deserves more credit.
Oh, I love it. That's very... Thank you, Phil, for that amazing...
Yeah, that's Phil West. Phil did
West
not
style.
write that joke, as much as it may sound like he did.
But Phil's always on the show in spirit, so he could claim a little bit of credit for that, I'm sure.
Yeah, Diego Fagundes ended up with decent stats by the end of the season, but he did so much for this team that did not appear in a stat sheet. And I think as bad as the season was, it would have been even worse without Diego Fagundes on the roster. So hopefully he can bring more of that in 22.
Yeah, and positionally there in 22, we expect to see him more central, probably, right? Given where we are.
Who knows? It'll be more of an option, at least. We can play him there and not be sacrificing a ton of quality on the wing by doing that. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Diego more centrally, but we've not heard anything from the club to necessarily confirm that will be the case, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, especially given the addition of Finley, because we got a lot of wingers, as always. I could see him there. Okay, so my fourth and final gift, this is to La Merca de Austin. And I want to give them a Grammy award because they're, an amazing band, but not any Grammy award, but I found on eBay Cardi B's 2020 Grammy certificate and the medal that she got for it for Best Rap Album. And I feel like that's a pretty good analog to La Merca, because I was just finished reading Shea Serrano's Hip Hop and Other Things. There's a chapter in it about how like 2018 Cardi B was so good that she can make even Maroon 5 superstars again. And I feel like La Murga during 2021 was so good they could even make the best out of what could have been a really bad in-stadium experience given what we were doing. So they can, I don't know how they're all going to share Cardi B's Grammy together. It's only $2,000 on eBay though right now, but I would like to buy that for them and give them a Grammy Award.
I think that's perfect. There's a ton of credit has been shown Austin FC's way. And did we talk about the player voting, the MLS Players
No,
Association
we did not.
voting? We didn't cover that. So Austin was voted the second best atmosphere to play in after Atlanta United. And so it's our first season. Half the teams in the league have not been to Austin or played in Austin, and Austin FC still won second place in that voting. That is chalked up at least 90% to what La Morgue de Austin and the supporters groups have turned that South End into. And so whatever award they're eligible for, they should win, even if it's not Cardi B's Grammy.
Oh, yeah. Maybe we can get him a replica Grammy. Those were like $139. Those are a little more cost effective, but they didn't seem as meaningful as Cardi B's.
All right. Any other gifts before we move on?
Well, I feel like we should give gifts to each other, but I didn't prepare anything, so I guess we'll just skip that. Landon, I gift you another year of doing the show together, hopefully, at least.
Perfect. Yeah,
and under the same name. Like let's
yes.
try to keep the same name for at least 12 months.
That's our gift to the listeners, is that we're not going to change the name of our podcast this calendar year. All right, let's move on. So we just talked about Austin FC getting credit mostly due to their fans. So Andrew Wiebe wrote an article on MLSsoccer.com celebrating one thing from each MLS team in the 2021 season. So what did Andrew have to say about Austin?
This is probably not surprising, but he said, "I'm not Verde, but I have a ton of respect for supporters in Austin. Not every expansion season is a dream. They've had some nightmares this year, but Q2 Stadium is always a sight to behold." So the one thing that Wiebe had for Austin were the fans of Austin. And I just thought that note in the discussion we just had was a really good time to thank everybody who's been involved in the supporters group for the last few years for contributing, and if you're listening and you're not in a supporters group, like I would highly encourage you to join it. If you are in one, and I know a lot of people who are listening are super involved, but if you are in one and you're not really involved, like just get involved. It's easy. I think every group is looking for more hands and more ideas and more folks who can contribute to help out and help sustain this amazing game day experience we've built. And we've talked about this before, but just think about how great it's going to be when we're good. We built it this way now, but it's going to be great when we're good. And then also, if you're looking for a spot in leadership, Los Verdes recently had an election for half of the spots in the starting 11. Including me retiring, which is the thing I'm very excited about, so I can focus on the podcast. And then Austin Anthem is also about to have their election. So there's opportunities to get involved all across the board. And I think that, more folks should feel free to step up and do that and be a bigger part of the supporters culture.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's been a very enriching part of mine and Jeremiah's lives. And then just a lot of little perks, like being able to find tickets pretty easily if you don't have them, or finding tickets for friends, little things like that even if you're not going to be like die hard spending 8 hours a day in Los Verdes Slack, that there's still reasons to join and worthwhile reasons to join, even if you're going to be a bit more of a casual participant. But one other thing we wanted to mention, which is not in our notes here, Jeremiah, so we're going to be confirming some details on the fly as we record. Over the last few years, Jeremiah and I and several other friends within the Austin FC community, while the stadium was being constructed, we would meet up out by the stadium every once in a while and just drink beers on the street, because it was in like the height of COVID. We didn't really want to go out to bars or like go to restaurants or anything, but we wanted to see people, go have some beers. And so we'd set up lawn chairs on the street next to the McAllis construction site, what it was at the time. We want to kind of have another, kind of keep that tradition alive. And so on New Year's Day, we're planning on going out to the stadium. We're going to set up some lawn chairs on the street and drink some beers for old time's sake. If anybody would like to join, we'll be there. Do you want to say 3:00, Jeremiah?
Yeah, let's say 3:00. We didn't get a firm. We could declare the time on the fly. It's our show, and yeah, we'll be out there. And it's on the Delta, I guess technically Donley maybe Drive. There's the Delta Denton Donley Loop, which is on the west side of the stadium across the train tracks. East side of the stadium across the train tracks.
Correct.
From the stadium itself.
Yeah, just across the train tracks, that street that you can see from the stadium. We'll be out there in some lawn chairs. There's 8 or 9 breweries within a mile of the stadium you can stop by and pick up a beer from, and then meet us over there. But anybody listening, any of your friends, anybody you want to bring, you're all welcome to come hang out with us. And we had some pretty special times there over the last couple of years. So we just thought it would be a fun thing to keep alive and welcome some more people into. So we look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah, and it will probably be another opportunity for you to hear Chris Wellhausen specifically tell me how I'm wrong about lots of opinions on the show, which I feel like is something that came up every time it would sit out there. Chris would be like, "Wait, Jay, before you go, one more thing. Let me tell you how you're wrong about this." So you can look forward to enjoying that, if nothing else.
And for folks who have only heard Chris on the show, you get to see his face while one of us is saying something, because his face says we're wrong long before his mouth does.
That's absolutely true.
All right. Before we wrap up, we'd like to remind you to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And you can now rate and review podcasts on Spotify, which was not a thing you could do before. So if you've already rated us on Apple Podcasts or whatever you use to listen to your podcasts and have a few moments, we'd appreciate you rating us on Spotify as well. If you want to continue the conversation, come find us on Twitter. I'm at ElviaHero87 and Jeremiah's at JBentley_ATX. Always like talking to people online. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Moontower Soccer as well. We'd also encourage you to visit the Striker Texas website. Jeremiah, what should folks look out for this week?
Yeah, one thing, it's a light week because it's a light week. But one thing I wanted to mention, just came up in passing, was the Jared Stroud opening up on playing through tonsillitis, which is an article that Chris Bills wrote on December 22nd, which is an interview with Jared Stroud about a lot of things. But one thing we learned is he wasn't in the best physical shape for the whole year. So check that out, along with breaking news on Maxi Urruti.
All right. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week with a new episode of Moontower Soccer, in which we're going to be doing a crossover with the guys from Top Flight Podcast. So very excited about that one, and excited to see what happens when we combine our two very different energies. But it should be a lot of fun, so definitely tune in for that.
Yeah, and we're going to have to be video ready, I think. That's the thing that I'm most nervous about, because they record on YouTube.
Yeah.
And usually our show involves me like staring off the side of the screen, looking stuff up on the internet while you're talking. I feel like I may have to be a little bit more present if we're going to do this in person.
All right. Well, we'll be back in 1 week. Until then, I'm Landon Cotto.
I'm Jeremiah Bentley.
We'll catch you next time.
When no one is around. Muchas gracias. Bye bye.